Hello, David. Thank you for joining us today to talk about voting and accommodations. Every election is critical, but it seems like in the current times, the right and ability to vote is especially important. So we're really happy to be able to talk to you today about how that can be more accessible for more individuals. So if you could take a moment to introduce yourself and your presentation, we can go ahead and get started.
Sounds great. Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I'm always happy to share my knowledge on elections and to let people know that I'm out there to help and assist them when they need me. But let's get back to a little bit about myself. My name is David Foster. I am the Ombudsman for Accessible Elections, and I also serve as a Senior Elections Specialist for the state of Michigan. I've been with the department since February of 2006. I grew up in Marquette, Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula, and graduated from Northern Michigan University with a degree in political science. But that's enough about me. We can talk a little bit about elections now, and I'll go through some things, and then if you have any questions or anything like that or feedback, I can certainly go into those topics as well. So I'm here to talk about elections in the state of Michigan, maybe tell you a story or two if I've got something good to say or if you want to hear something. And of course, answer any questions that you may have on the process once I'm done with the initial presentation. If there's any questions as we go along or anything you'd like me to elaborate on, just put it in the chat and I will get to that as soon as I can. So let's start with what's coming up over the coming months as far as elections in the state of Michigan. There is a primary election that will occur on Tuesday, August 2nd of 2022. That will be followed by our next major election, which is the general election on November 8th of 2022. This cycle is commonly referred to as the midterm election cycle. In Michigan, we'll be voting on a wide range of offices during this time period. This includes state representatives, state senators, United States congressmen, the governor's office, judicial offices, and a variety of state and local proposals. There's multiple ways to cast a ballot in Michigan. You can cast a ballot in person or as a no reason absentee voter. Michigan offers a lot of accessible ways of acquiring a ballot. In each polling place, a voter assist terminal is available to all voters, and it provides an ease of access to those who need it. An accessible absentee ballot can also be requested online. This method allows the user to use the technologies that they have at their disposal and are comfortable with to fill out the ballot. Now, if I can share my screen here a bit, just give me a moment and I can walk you through some of the stuff that we have that will assist you in applying for a ballot, receiving a ballot, and returning a ballot, as well as information on which candidates might be on your ballot, which proposals might be on your ballot, to get you comfortable and ready to cast a ballot in the next election. Let me see, I don't see that I have a share. I'm not, here, let me go, there it is. Just one moment, bear with me. Okay, the first page here is our Michigan Voter Information Center. This is located, the website is mi.gov/vote. This site has a lot of information on it that is very easy for the voter to access and to do different things that they need to do in the election process. The first thing, as you can see here, I'll put it up top, is the ability to register to vote online. There's only one requirement on this, that you have either a driver's license or a Michigan ID. You have to have some type of number identifying you as a Michigan resident to be able to register online. That doesn't mean that you can't register to vote. It just means that you can't register to vote online if you do not have that ID. There's a method for applying for a absentee ballot online. You can print out an application, do it in this method or fashion, and you can determine what your clerk is. These are some of the main features. Now, for voters with disabilities, we have a section that will allow you to apply for a ballot. I will go through this, and this ballot is accessible. So once you make an application to this, the ballot will be emailed to you. And then you can use whatever assistive technology that you have to fill out that ballot. The only thing with Michigan is that it must be returned by mail. So when the ballot is done, it will have to be printed out and placed into an envelope and returned. We are working on that law, hoping to make changes to it, but at this time, it's not something that can be emailed back to us. So once again, it would have to be included in a mailing back to your local clerk's office. But as you scroll down here, you will see that we have a whole section on accessible voting. A lot of these are new developments, and a lot of this came forth with a case. It was Powell versus Benson in May 19th of 2020. There is videos that we have here, a voter accessible equipment playlist. This goes through items, what type of voter assistive technology that we have in your particular county. Michigan has 3 voting systems that are available, Dominion, HART, and ES&S. So it all depends on which county you live in. And this link right here that is I have up will put you through the videos. And it will identify which system that you have in your particular county, so you know what to expect in the polling place if you want to vote in person and use the voter assist terminal. I'll center this a little bit. Now, if you want to apply for an accessible absentee voter ballot online, it is right here in the middle. You will simply click on this link, follow the instructions that are here, and a ballot will be emailed to you. If you have any issues with that, I can be contacted. I'll share my contact information here at the end of the presentation. Now, let's take a quick step back here. Sorry, I'm going to share a new screen here. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I have to update the page. One moment. Okay. The next page that we have is our secondary page. This is a site that is both voter facing and clerk facing. So the clerks who administer your ballots also use this page for information on their elections. As you scroll down here, this page could be found at mi.gov/elections. There's a variety of information on here. It lists elections by county, upcoming elections, any pending rule changes, a complete candidate listing of all state and federal candidates, as well as judicial candidates, is listed here under the August 2nd primary listing. So you can find candidates not even in your own jurisdictions if you're just looking for basic information on the upcoming elections. We also post on here results, elections by county, a variety of different information on past elections that have occurred here in the state of Michigan. We try to keep the most recent one here on the front page, and then the rest are archived and can be found in different locations throughout the web page. If you're looking for additional information on elections beyond that, there's campaign finance. There's Democracy MVP, which is our partner for accessible ballots. We use their system to produce those ballots and distribute them. We have an election security site, which is very relevant topic right now. You see a lot of stuff in the media, social media regarding election security. It's a great place to find facts and facts that are relevant to the state of Michigan. We also have military and overseas voters. We have a notary and great seal, which involves your notary publics and their application processes. We have redistricting, which is a very relevant topic as well. 90% of voters in Michigan had some level of redistricting occur to them over the past election cycle with the redistricting committee in action. So you may have noticed a new voter ID card recently, something that's arrived in the mail, and it will indicate your new districts, possible new polling locations where you would cast a ballot if you were to go in person. We also have registering to vote, voting from home, and of course, voters with disabilities, which takes us to the same page that we reviewed from mi.gov/vote. There's a lot of good information here. The one thing that we can talk about here is your personalized voter information. So that will take us back to the Michigan Voter Information Center. There is a section, it is, am I registered? And I'll go through this with my information and show you what happens. This is a great place to get all of your information regarding your ballot and which candidates are on the ballot, those type of things. So I'll walk you through here in just a moment. I will pull up my sample information. It's pretty easy. We're just talking name, last name, birth month, your birth year, and the zip code. And then we search. You can see that I am a resident of Lansing, Ingham County. I am registered, and I have 2 upcoming elections that are in our election calendar. You can see over here that what the next upcoming election date is. That's August 2nd of 2022. You can see that I applied for an absentee ballot on 6/27/2022, which I did online, so it automatically dropped to the clerk that same day. The ballot was sent to me the same day on June 27th of 2022. You can see where my polling location is. You can see who my clerk is and all of their relevant information, phone numbers, emails, addresses, hours of operation. You can see additional locations. So in larger cities, you may have another spot within the city that handles ballots as well. In Lansing, we have an elections unit. You can see the drop box locations, which are located throughout the entire city, where you could drop a ballot off instead of mailing it back, and it would be securely locked within that box until a member of the clerk's staff picks up that ballot to take it to the clerk's office for secure storage. And at the top here, you will see the ballot preview. So what I will do is I will click on this, and this will give you a copy of basically what I am going to see when I go into a precinct, or if I were to request an accessible ballot. It will list all the candidates that are on here. It will show you a $sign, so you could look at their campaign finance reports if you wanted to. So you could look at the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and see where she's spending her money if you'd like. But it'll tell you what party they are. Republican or Democrats are on the left, Republicans are on the right. And then as you scroll down and we get past the partisan candidates appearing in the primary, you'll see a proposal section. So in the August primary, this will only be local proposals. So you will see things for your city or possibly your county, different types of questions. In the general election, you will add statewide initiatives. But those can only appear every 2 years in a November election. So I'm going to take back from this now. And I kind of at this point wanted to find out where individuals wanted to go with the rest of the presentation. I can provide any type of detail that's needed or anything along those lines, or if you have any questions. And I can also provide right now my information to contact me. If you do have questions, in case you're not watching live, you can reach out. Once again, on this screen, you'll see the Michigan Voter Information Center and its website, which is www.mi.gov/vote. And then the main elections page, which is www.mi.gov/elections. My contact information is right here in the middle. Once again, my name is David Foster. I'm the Ombudsman for Accessible Elections. My email address is adavoting@michigan.gov. And I can be reached at 2 different numbers, all depending on how busy it is. The first number is 517-335-2730. Or as an alternative, if you're unable to get through, the secondary number is 517-335-3237, and just ask for David Foster.
Okay, I actually have a few questions, David, for you.
Sure.
One of them was, you mentioned that there are 3 different voting systems in Michigan. Are all of those equipped with the same accessibility features, or do they differ in some capacity?
There can be small differences between the 3 systems, but in the end, all 3 systems meet the federal guidelines that have been established for election equipment. So some features may be slightly better, but on certain systems, or a certain system may be slightly better than another one in another capacity. But like I said, they meet all the minimum standards that are required for election equipment in all fields.
What's the difference between a quote unquote regular ballot and an accessible ballot?
There's not a whole lot of difference other than, the accessible ballot works well with accessible technology. So when that gets emailed to an individual, it should work with all the different technology that they have, no matter what their disability is. It's supposed to be interactive with just about everything. We've tested it with so many people and so many different versions of software and things like that you can use at home, that I'm quite confident that it should work with just about anything. And if something arises that it doesn't work with and it's brought to our attention, we'll make sure that it does.
Okay, you mentioned that absentee ballots have to be mailed in. So do they have to be mailed in? Can they be dropped off at a drop box, or they have to be mailed?
They don't necessarily have to be mailed in. Mailing in is maybe the easiest one without, if you're unable to leave your home or something along those lines, that's the easiest way to do it. Put it out to your post office box on the outside of your house or your apartment or wherever you might be, and that can be returned. But drop boxes are available in almost every community. And like I said, the easiest way to check that is going to that mi.gov/vote and finding out if your community does have a drop box. I don't know of too many communities that don't have a drop box. So you should have the ability to do so if requested. Other methods also, you could call the clerk when you arrive at their office to drop off an AV ballot, and they can physically come out to the vehicle if you're unable to enter the building for any reason, and they can pick up that ballot from you.
Okay. What is the window for requesting absentee ballots? Has that window closed? Is it still open?
No, it's available until 5 p.m. The Friday before the election. So let me look at the calendar here just real quick to refresh my memory. We would be talking July 29th by 5 p.m. for the August primary. I would recommend doing it earlier than that and giving yourself time, but if you're pushing up on the deadline, that is the deadline to request one. For the November, we would be looking at November 4th, Friday, November 4th by 5 p.m. Again, allotting yourself extra time and pre-planning is a good advice. But if you need to run up on the deadline, that is the deadline for you to request one.
And they have to be returned by when?
They have to be returned by 8 p.m. on election day. So the applicable election day, so we're looking at August 2nd, if it's the primary, and that has to be returned by 8 p.m. To the clerk's office. Or November 8th by 8 p.m. on the general election date.
Okay. Are there stipulations on people, groups of people going to pick up ballots or drop off ballots or going to the polls together or, anything like that? Are there stipulations around that?
As far as returning them, like person driving back ballots for individuals, a individual can return a ballot for someone if the voter requests that they do so.
Okay. So you can't have a group of, say, you can't go around the neighborhood and collect absentee ballots for everybody and take them all to a drop box.
Yeah, you can't solicit the return of an absentee ballot.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes sense. And what if for people who choose to go to the polls, what does that look like in terms of accessibility once you get into a polling place? Are all polling places accessible to everyone, or are there designated places maybe where people should go?
Well, by law, each polling place is required to be 100% accessible. But in the real world, I will openly admit it's not. There's always going to be variances in that. Michigan weather can create problems and accessibility, damaging sidewalks, parking lots, things like that. And it's unfortunate. We'd like to see that fully accessible at all times. But if a voter ever encounters that, they should reach out to me and we can make accommodations and every attempt to get those polling locations up to accessibility standards as soon as possible. I would say, in my estimation, that probably somewhere around 80% of polling locations are fully 100% compliant within the state of Michigan, and then some may just have some minor issues. I think that for the most part, absent a few locations, that accessibility has pretty good standards here in Michigan.
So if you encounter an issue, say on polling day, you've gone to the poll at 6 o'clock and you're having some issues or challenges around the accessibility at that polling place, what is your recourse at that point?
Reach out to me first. Let's have a discussion. Let's see if we can get that fixed. If it's just something minor, maybe we can make that adjustment right there on the fly. If we're not able to make that adjustment, possibly we can make accommodations with the clerk's office to make sure that a ballot is delivered in a proper fashion to that voter so they can still cast a ballot that day. The number one thing that we want to see happen is that voter casts a ballot that day if they want to. And then we will work over the coming weeks to make accessibility at that polling place up to speed so we don't encounter this problem again.
Okay, I appreciate that, people being able to reach out. On the topic of redistricting, yes, there were some changes made this year. So should people have already received their new cards if their district has been changed, or is that something that's still ongoing?
It's still ongoing in some small part, but the majority of individuals that were affected should have seen a new voter ID card or ID at this point. There's a couple jurisdictions that are having some logistical issues, but that should be resolved over the next coming 7 to 10 days or so. So you should still receive your new voter ID cards here very shortly if you haven't.
Okay, so we service Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, St. Clair, Monroe, Livingston, and Washtenaw. So Were there significant redistricting changes within, say, Southeast Michigan in particular?
Yes. I wouldn't be the best person to speak on this because I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis, but I can say that there were significant changes in those areas and how those lines were redrawn, especially in regard to state and federal offices. I'm not as familiar with the local stuff, but that is something knowledge that could be acquired through the county clerk's office or
Okay.
through your local city or township clerk's office, where they could provide additional clarification.
So if people are uncertain as to whether or not they've been redistricted, then they can get that information through the mi.gov/vote page to
That's
find their clerk.
correct. Yeah,
Okay,
everything should be up to date on there. Like I said, there's a couple minor changes, but there's not many voters that'll be affected by those. So, and that's just simple update of information, but that's a great resource. It'll provide you with everything, you know, who your state representative is, which district your state senator is, which congressional district you're in, which precinct you vote at, you know, judicial districts. It's got everything there.
okay. And just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. On the absentee ballot, we have no reason absentee balloting in Michigan, right? So for people, that means you can request an absentee ballot just because, right?
That's correct. Yep,
Okay,
for any reason.
okay,
So, you know, you don't have to mark like, you know, 6, 8 years ago, you had to put a reason down. But with the law changes, it is absolutely no reason. You can request an absentee ballot for any reason.
okay. And that can be ongoing for every election. So for every election, then would you have to request for every election, or is there a way that it can be sent to you automatically?
And yeah, you can request to be on a permanent AV list. The majority of our clerks in the state of Michigan maintain permanent AV lists. In that case, you would be sent an AV application for each and every election, with the exception being in even years. So when you have an August and November election in, say, 2022 or 2024, you would receive a dual application prior to the August election, in which you can apply for one, you know, either August or November, or August and November, all in one application.
Okay, so you do apply every year then?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
okay. All right, well, this has been very informative. You've left your phone number and all of your contact information. Is there anything else you want to leave viewers and listeners with today?
I think the only thing is if you have questions, reach out to our department. It can be, you know, any questions that you have. Take a look at our websites. There's so much information there. We've worked hard to make the websites accessible too, especially over the last couple of years. So there's a lot of data that's accessible to everyone. And I'm here to help. I love working on elections. There's a special spot in my heart for, you know, Americans with disabilities, and I love it all. So reach out to me, let me help you if you need help, and I will do it.
I appreciate that. I might also add, for people, start early. I would suggest that people take a look at the website today. If you haven't applied for your absentee ballot, do that today. See, maybe even go by your polling place, if that's a possibility. Map out your transportation maybe ahead of time, find out what you might need to do to get to the poll or get your ballot back. Certainly, let's not wait until August 1st or November 7th to make sure that everything is in place for you to cast your vote. So I would toss that in to start early as well. But I really appreciate you sharing your phone number and being so accessible to people around this topic.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.